I made these mindfulness videos and try to help people have peace of mind in their bad situation as they work towards getting out of their situation, but that can seem insulting. So I wanted to make a video expressing that I understand the struggle is real. Many people are experiencing mental struggles, and they have every reason to be. We've created a world in which we've separated work from job, and it's no wonder people are unhappy. But we started calling slavery a job and allowed them to choose their master to help them forget that they're stuck in this system fundamentally. And fundamentally, the system works the same as it always did. So when people feel like they're trapped inside a box and they can really only afford to go back and forth to their job, they're correct. Taking care of your house, family, community, garden, animals, making your own food, storing your own food, being creative, that used to be the work. That is work, but that's not a job. But historically, that was the work. Now we have a separation of work and job. It's become almost a hashtag. I hear people say, people don't want to work anymore. People don't want to work these days. And to some extent, that's correct. Certainly I know people who are incredibly lazy. They don't seem to like work or their job or have any sense of responsibility, but also historically those people died. They didn't last very long. But remember, we're talking about the separation of work and job because in addition, keep in mind, I know some people who love their job, but they're incredibly lazy. They hate work. Their job is like a crossword puzzle. It's like an activity or something, so they do it. They're also not very bright, so they just go back to doing the same thing and are perfectly content. But when it comes to doing things at home or being responsible or having goals or being proactive, never, never, never. But some people who are most bothered by their job are bothered because they're the opposite of lazy. Just like how some people who seem narcissistic are actually the opposite. They're incredibly insecure and have no confidence. Sometimes the people who are most bothered by their job are bothered because they want to work the most. And the job takes time from work. It takes time away from their work. It takes time away from their life goals. It takes time away from their activities at home, their creativity, time teaching their children, time away from their studies or whatever the case. Sometimes those who are most bothered by their jobs are workaholics, strivers, and the ultra creatives of the world. But even if that's not you, that's perfectly compatible with what I'm saying. I'm saying that most people are bothered by not being able to work because most people want to work. We're talking about the separation of work and job. Remember, listen, if you come home and have ever had this conversation, how was your day at work, honey? Oh, it was good. It went by quickly. That's a sign that something needs to change. If you live to be 100 while living this way, it means a good life is one in which 85 years went by quickly, but you enjoyed what you were working on for 15 of those years. How was your day? Good. It went by quickly. So what would a great day be? You close your eyes, open them, and you're done work for the day and you can go home? We've kind of created this society in the US at least where it's impossible to work. The problem with the parable of the Mexican fisherman is that we've created a world in which you can't live off the land. You have to have access to credits. These credits, we call them dollars, we call them a number of things in the world, but you certainly can't just live. It costs money to live. It costs credits to live. If you just work on your life or your land and your family, the government will come take your house because you have to pay property tax, city tax. You have to pay for a fishing license, a hunting license. It's unlawful to have a septic system in my area, so you have to pay to tie in your house to the local sewer system and pay monthly for that. Still, that parable is one of my favorites, and all parables break down at some point. The take that I get from that parable may be an unconventional one. It's really just that I should always be asking myself, what's the big picture? What's the reason I'm doing this? And how much fulfillment is actually involved in the result of this? So the point I'm making now is that you have to have some kind of income. You can't just live. And when people are forced to have jobs that they really don't need, we're putting them into a plastic box and forcing them to watch life go by. Now, you can argue that it's a big box, like a department store or something, or an office building, but it's still a box. And the reason I say it's a glass box is because You know what life has to offer. You've got your phone, you have access to the world, you know what's out in the world. So you're literally watching life go by. Imagine I put my dog into a cage Monday to Friday and let him out only on the weekends. Is it truly any wonder why people are unhappy? And are they truly bad people for being unhappy? And you might say, well, people can go anywhere they want. They're not in a cage. But they can't go anywhere they want. They can't afford to. And the moment they're off from their job, the clock starts ticking. So there's an extremely short window of time until they need to be back inside the box. And usually it's just enough time to take care of responsibilities and go back in. And so many people point out, so when you're off work, just work on building a better life for yourself. When the animal is allowed out, it can work on building a better life for itself. Or it can spend time with friends, but it doesn't have time to do both. The animal is permitted out of the cage Saturday morning to Sunday evening. So your solution is that when the animal is permitted out of the cage on weekends, it should choose to stay in with a book or a computer. Just do that for 5 years or however long it's necessary until the animal has a successful business. Well, that's what I do, and everyone hates me. And I start Monday more tired and irritated than I was on Friday. And mindfulness, meditation, reframing, and other mind tricks are not the solution. They're a way to help us as we work towards making our lives better, that's for sure. And understanding hedonism is essential in helping us recognize real happiness when we do find it, so that we just don't spend all of our lives striving. But we have all these tactics to help people cope with their psychological disorders, as we call them. But they spend 85% of their time away from their family, friends, and housework, and do monotonous tasks over and over and over again every day for years. Should it really be any wonder why people are unhappy and don't like going to their job? There's a big difference between a job and work. A lot of people these days say people don't like work, but I say they don't like their job. There's a huge difference. It's as different as Disney World and prison. It's a huge difference. Not only is it no wonder why people have psychological problems, but discontent with this model of life we have now is likely indicative of psychological health. Being okay with this model of job work would be indicative of a social or psychological disorder, or both. There was a guy who cleaned at this hotel I used to work at, and he wasn't quite right in the head. God bless him, he wasn't very bright. Every day he showed up to do this job, and probably he'll have that job until he dies. He'll have that job forever. But quite frankly, he's not capable of doing much else. And of course, yeah, but guy out there who didn't read the first chapter of my book is going to point out that their Uncle Bob really likes his job and he's really smart. Okay, yeah, that's fine, but then there's the other 9 billion people we need to think about. Additionally, if you own your own business, that's not a job, that's work. It's downstream effort. It sucks, it's hard, it's work. It's great. We're not talking about your Uncle Bob. We're not talking about you as a business owner. We're talking about the psychological difficulties of a job. And the problem of a job is not that you go to a place or that it's hard. And it's not that you have to use your brain. And it's not that it's physically demanding, right? Because so many people, when they're off from their job, they run marathons for fun. And some people play a musical instrument or learn another language, as in the two most mentally difficult tasks in all of the world. And millions of people work out on their off days. They exercise on their off days. How many times do you hear people say, oh, I don't exercise as much when we're busy at work? And how many times have you said that? I know I have. The problem with the job is the narrow focus. We're kind of supposed to be well-rounded as humans from a bioevolutionary perspective. Because otherwise, at one point in time in human history, you would have died. It's excellent to see someone who's a master at their craft. But historically speaking, that may not have kept you alive necessarily. Right? The one-trick pony isn't a survivor. The guy who can do nothing else except throw a baseball or hit a golf ball, but knows nothing about procuring food or surviving, he's dead. And again, it is extremely entertaining to watch people who are really good at one thing. But humans are supposed to be rounded to some extent. And I think another problem that people have with a job is that they're told what to think. Sit here, do this, think about this. Well, wait, can I use my brain to do other things while I'm here at the job? Absolutely not. You have to think about what I'm paying you to think about. And that's kind of painful. But when you own your own business, everything is your choice. Your brain is still yours, your thoughts are still yours. But nowadays, because we want to maximize efficiency, and not everyone lives on a ranch and does their thing, Everyone is supposed to be super at one thing or only a couple things. But another problem with this is that people's desires change at no fault of their own. Most people get bored of doing the same thing, and they should. There's scientific evidence that shows that skills diminish. They rise and they fall, and in much shorter time frame than you think. And of course, it's different with each skill. Someone actually wrote a book about this, now that I think of it. Arthur Brooks, I think, From Strength to Strength. Highly recommend the book. It's a great book. But why is it that people say that if people don't have a job, they won't do anything? And why is it that people assume that being at home equals not doing anything? Historically, at the home is where life happened. Life doesn't happen at a job. A job is a distraction from life. It's a departure from life's work. And it's a departure from human nature. If someone is bothered by not having time to do what humans used to call responsibilities, why are they lazy? There's a big difference between work and a job. It's completely against human nature to be teaching our children how to be someone else's slave. Why is it vacation when we teach our children how to fish, or how to be good people, or responsible people, or to procure their own food? If we depart too much from human nature, people are going to be unhappy. And other people are going to say they've got psychological problems. We're going to label these problems, and we're going to treat these problems with medication.